Class, happy Friday. Today we are going to be reading chapters 19 and 20. We are getting to the end of our story. Surprisingly, it's only been a few weeks, but we only have a few pages or a few chapters left. So next week we'll be finishing up. So today is day 145. It's Friday, April 17th. We have the same objective today. So we are continuing to work on character change. So we talked yesterday about how Opal's relationships changed just throughout the story in general. And then we also talked about, you guys wrote how her relationship with the Dewberry Boys changed. So again, we're able to see that Opal is a dynamic character because from the beginning to the end of the story, Opal is changing. I want you to still be thinking about if there are other characters that are also changing in this story. So again, here's our steps. Pay attention to the character's thoughts, words, and actions in the story. Ask yourself, what was the character like at the beginning? How have they changed? What was the character like at the end? Did something happen that caused them to change? And then you find your evidence to prove it. So this is an example of what some people had from yesterday. So how has Opal's relationship changed with the Dewberry Boys at the end of this chapter? So in the beginning of the text, in the beginning of the story, Opal and the Dewberry Boys are not nice to each other. In the text it says, "You can go ahead and tell on me if you want, you big bald-headed baby. We know that using that language is not nice." So that was not a nice thing to say. And the Dewberry Boys also teased her. "There goes that preacher's daughter visiting the witch." So continuing to call her friends mean names and teasing her. They're just not being nice. Now, towards the end of those chapters, end of the story, it tells you here, Opal and one of the Dewberry Boys start to be nice to one another. In the text it says, "And so I just waved instead." And then there's like kind of a blank because there's a few words in between that this quote doesn't show. "I saw that Dunlap put his hand up in the air and waved back." So now they're just waving to each other, being civil, being nice. So definitely their relationship is starting to change. And then what caused this change? Now, there's a reason for this change. In the text, Miss Franny and Miss Gloria Dump were both telling Opal that maybe she should be nicer to the Dewberry Boys. Now, they haven't told her why, and maybe there's no reason. Maybe it's just because she should be nicer, but we'll have to see what happens. But here it says, Opal and the Dewberry Boys' relationship changes because Opal learns new lessons. We talked about the lesson, the message, the theme from chapter 14 already last week, or earlier this week. So Opal and the Dewberry Boys' relationship changes because Opal learns new lessons from Miss Franny and Gloria Dump. In chapter 17 it says, "I was just getting ready to stick out my tongue at them, but then I thought about what Miss Franny said about war being hell, and I thought about what Gloria Dump said about not judging them too hard, and so I just waved." So because of the relationship she's having with Gloria Dump and with Miss Franny, she's changing her relationships with other people. They're teaching her lessons about how to be friendly, how to get along with people, and how to be a good person. So we're going to continue learning that throughout today. Today we're going to be reading, like I said, chapters 19 and 20. So again, we're not going to stop and do an example because you have this example right here to look off of. You're going to be thinking about Otis and his relationship with Opal throughout the story. So we're going to get started on chapter 19. All right, chapter 19. In the morning, me and Winn Dixie went down to sweep the pet store, and I took a litmus lozenge for Otis. Is it Halloween?" Otis asked when I handed him the candy. "No," I said. "Why?" "Well, you're giving me candy." "It's just a gift," I told him, "for today." "Oh," said Otis. He unwrapped the litmus lozenge and put it in his mouth. And after a minute, tears started rolling down his face. "Thank you," he said. "Do you like it?" I asked him. He nodded his head. "It tastes good, but it also tastes a little like being in jail." Gertrude squawked. She picked up the litmus lozenge and wrapper in her beak and then dropped it and looked around. "Gertrude!" she screamed again. "You can't have any," I told her. "It's not for birds." Then, real quick, before I lost my nerve, I said, Otis, what were you in jail for? Are you a murderer? No, ma'am, he said. Are you a burglar? No, ma'am, Otis said again. He sucked on his candy and stared down at his pointy-toed boots. You don't have to tell me, I said. I was just wondering. I ain't a dangerous man, Otis said, if that's what you're thinking. I'm lonely, but I ain't dangerous. Okay, I said, and I went back to the room to get the broom. When I came back out, Otis was standing where I left him, still staring down at his feet. It was on account of the music, he said. What was? I asked. Why I went to jail. It was on account of the music. What happened? I wouldn't stop playing my guitar. Used to be I played it on the street, and sometimes people will give me money. I didn't do it for the money. I did it because the music is better for if someone is listening to it. Anyway, the police came, and they told me to stop. They said how I was breaking the law, and the whole time they were talking to me, I went right on playing my music. And that made them mad. They tried to put handcuffs on me, he sighed. I didn't like that. I wouldn't have been able to play my guitar with them things on. And then what happened? I asked him. I hit them, he whispered. You hit the police? Uh-huh, one of them. I knocked him out. Then I went to jail, and they locked me up and wouldn't let me have my guitar. And when they finally let me out, they made me promise I wouldn't never play my guitar on the streets again. He looked up at me real quick and then back down at his boots. And I don't. I only play it in here, for the animals. Gertrude, the human Gertrude, she owns this shop, and she gave me this job when she read about me in the paper. And she said it's all right for me to play music to the animals. You play music for me and Winn, Dixie, and Sweetie Pie, I said. Yeah, he agreed. But you ain't on the street. Thank you for telling me about it, Otis, I said. It's all right, he said. I don't mind. Sweetie Pie came in and I gave her a litmus lozenge, and she spit it right out. She said that it tasted bad. She said that it tasted like not having a dog. I swept the floor real slow that day. I wanted to keep Otis company. I didn't want him to be lonely. Sometimes it seemed like everybody was lonely in the world. Everybody in the world was lonely. I thought about my mama. Thinking about her was the same as the hole you keep on feeling with your tongue after you lose a tooth. Every time my mind kept going to that empty spot, the spot where I felt like she should be. Pause for a second. I want us to look at that statement right here. It says, thinking about her was the same as the hole you keep on feeling with your tongue after you lost a tooth. So I want you to think about that feeling first. We've all lost a tooth before. So when you lose a tooth, you have a hole in your mouth where the tooth was. So they're saying that thinking about her mom was the same as feeling that hole in your tooth. So it was like a hole. Time after time, my mind kept going to that empty spot in her mouth, the spot where I felt like she should be. So it's like a hole in your heart. So she's explaining that thinking about her mom was the same as thinking about something missing from your mouth. So something missing from you, because that's what's missing from her. The second question I want you guys to think about before we move on, just to kind of continue to be thinking about this chapter, even though we can't discuss it in purpose, you can think about it on your own while we're stopped right now. So I want you to think about, what does the litmus lozenge do for each of these people? So after they eat it, they all feel something. It said Sweetie Pie said it felt like not having a dog, and we know that Sweetie Pie really wants a dog. So that's something that's really sad for her. Said that Otis, it makes him think about jail, and that was a really lonely place, so that's another really sad experience for him. It makes Opal think about her mom and that she's not there with her. Same with the preacher. So when everybody eats this candy, it makes them think about something that they're missing, something that they are sad about. Same with Amanda Wilkinson. It makes her think about her little brother who we learned passed away. So even though it tastes good, it also makes them think about those things in their lives that they miss and that they really cared for. So that's something to think about. In this chapter, we learned a lot about Otis and how Opal's feelings for Otis started to kind of change. Because in the beginning of the story, when she was talking to Miss Gloria Dump, she was feeling a little bit different about him because she didn't know everything about him yet. So we're going to see if that feeling changes anymore. Let's move down to chapter 20. And I'm actually going to move this back down here because it's easier. There we go. Chapter 20. When I told Gloria Dump about Otis and how he got arrested, she laughed so hard she had to grab hold of her false teeth so they wouldn't fall out of her mouth. "Woo-wee," she said as she was finally done laughing. "That sure is some dangerous criminal." "He's a lonely man," I told her. "He just wants to play his music for somebody." Gloria wiped her eyes with the hem of her dress. "I know, sugar," she said, "but sometimes things aren't so sad. When things are so sad, they get to be funny." "You know what else?" I said, still thinking about sad things. "That girl you told me about, the pinch-faced one, Amanda. Well, her brother drowned last year. He was only 5 years old, the same age as Sweetie Pie Thomas." Gloria stopped smiling. She nodded her head. "I remember hearing about that," she said. "I remember hearing about a little drowned boy." "That's why Amanda is so pinch-faced," I said. "She misses her brother." "Most likely," Gloria agreed. "Do you think everybody misses somebody? Like I miss my mama?" Said Gloria. She closed her eyes. "I believe sometimes that the whole world has an aching heart." I couldn't stand to think about sad things that couldn't be helped anymore. So I said, "Do you want to hear some more Gone with the Wind?" "Yes, indeed," Gloria said. "I've been looking forward to it all day. Let's see what Miss Scarlet is up to now." I opened Gone with the Wind and started to read, but the whole time I was thinking about Otis, worrying about him not being allowed to play his guitar for people. In the book, Scarlet was looking forward to going to a big barbecue where there was going to be music and food. That's how I got the idea. "That's what we need to do," I said. I slammed the book shut. When Dixie's head shot up from underneath Gloria's chair, he looked around all nervous like. "Huh," said said Gloria Dump. "Have a party," I told her. "We need to have a party and invite Miss Franny Black and the preacher and Otis can play his guitar for everybody. Sweetie Pie can come too. She listens to his music good." "We who?" Gloria asked. "We, me and you. We can make some food and have a party right here in your yard." Said Gloria Dump. "We could make peanut butter sandwiches and cut them up in triangles to make them look fancy." "Lord," said Gloria Dump, "I don't know if the whole world likes peanut butter as much as you and me and this dog." "Okay then," I said, "we can make egg salad sandwiches. Adults like those." "You know how to make an egg salad?" "No, ma'am," I said. "I don't have a mama around to teach me things like that. But I bet you know. I bet you could teach me. Please?" "Maybe," said Gloria Dump. She put her hand on Winn-Dixie's head. She smiled at me. I know she was telling me yes. "Thank you," I said. I went over and hugged her and squeezed her hard. Winn-Dixie wagged his tail and tried to get in between the two of us. He couldn't stand being left out of anything. "It's going to be the best party ever," I told Gloria. "You gotta make me one promise, though," Gloria said. "All right," I told him. That should be her. I told her, "You gotta invite them Dewberry boys." "Dunlap and Stevie?" "Ain't gonna be no party unless you invite them." "I have to?" "Yes," said Gloria Dump. "You promise me?" "I promise," I said. I didn't like the idea, but I promised. I started inviting people right away. I asked the preacher first. "Daddy," I said. "Opal," said the preacher said back. "Daddy, me and Winn-Dixie and Gloria Dump are having a party." "Well," said the preacher, "that's nice. You have a good time." "Daddy," I said, "I'm telling you because you're invited." "Oh," said the preacher. He rubbed his nose. "I see. Can you come?" I asked him. He sighed. I don't see why not," he said. Miss Franny Block took to the idea right away. A party, she said, and clapped her hands together. Yes, ma'am, I told her. It will be the kind of like the barbecue at 12 Oaks and Gone with the Wind. Only it's not going to be as many people, and we're going to serve egg salad sandwiches instead of barbecue. That sounds lovely, Miss Franny said, and then she pointed to the back of the library and whispered, Maybe you should ask Amanda, too. She probably won't want to come, I said. She doesn't like me very much. Ask her and see what she says, Miss Franny whispered. So I walked to the back of the library and I asked Amanda Wilkinson in my best manners voice to please come to my party. She looked around all nervous and stuff. A party? She said. Yes, I said. I sure would like it if you could come. She stared at me with her mouth open. Okay, she said after a minute. I mean, yes, thank you. I would love to. And just like that, I promised Gloria. I asked the Dewberry boys. I ain't going to no party at a witch's house, Stevie said. Dunlap knocked Stevie with his elbow. We'll come, he said. We will not, said Stevie. That witch might cook us up in her old witch pot. I don't care if you come or not, I told them. I'm just asking because I promised I would. We'll be there, said Dunlap, and he nodded and he smiled at me. Sweetie Pie was very excited when I invited her. What's the theme? She asked. Well, there isn't one, I said. You gotta think of a theme, she told me. She stuck her knuckle in her mouth. I'm just gonna go all the way up to the top. Right here. You gotta think of a theme, she told me. She stuck her knuckle in her mouth and pulled it back out. It ain't a party without a theme. Is this dog coming? She asked. She wrapped her arms around Winn Dixie and squeezed him so hard that his eyes almost popped out of his head. Yes, I told her. Good, she said. You could make the theme. It could be a dog party. I'll think about it, I told her. The last person I asked was Otis. I told him all about the party and that he was invited and that he said, No, thank you. Why not? I asked. I don't like parties, said Otis. Please, I begged. It won't be a party unless you come. I'll give you a whole free week of sweeping and arranging and dusting if you come to the party. That's what I'll do. A whole week for free? Otis said, looking up at me. Yes, sir, I told him. But I don't have to talk to people, right? No, sir, I said. You don't, but bring your guitar. Maybe you could play us some music. Maybe, said Otis. He looked down at his boots again real quick, trying to hide his smile. Thank you, I told him. Thank you for deciding to come. All right, and that is the end of chapter 18. So now you can go back to your document that says day 145 because of Winn Dixie notes and classwork. And again, you can look through the model, you can look through the example, and go down here. And it says, how does Opal's relationship with Otis change at the end of this chapter? So over the course of these two chapters, this is the end part. So this is when he starts to change. So for the beginning, you want to think about before our reading today. Before our reading today, what was their relationship like? Now, towards the end of the story, how is she feeling about Otis? Because these two chapters included a lot about Otis. And then again, why do you think this relationship changed? What caused their relationship to change? So you're going to fill in those blanks on your own, and I am excited to see what you have done tomorrow. Keep up the good work, and happy Friday. Oh, I forgot. Today was Cozy Fell Out of Bed Friday, so I'm wearing just a comfy black sweatsuit. It's super soft, and it just keeps me all nice and cozy. So I hope you guys are wearing your Fell Out of Bed Friday clothes as well. And I will have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.